but then also, making sure that my people get in early, and that they're buying work. So as they rise, we all grow together.
And thanks, Larry. And I want to introduce good friend Arthur Lewis, who's the director over at UTA Fine Art Space in LA. And Arthur probably has one of the best art collections that I've seen, and just impeccable taste when it comes to picking pieces, but also some of the best relationships with artists as well. Arthur, can you talk a little bit about how you started collecting and your journey to becoming creative director over at UTA Fine Art Space?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a good evening wherever you are. And hello to so many friends. It's great seeing you guys through this and seeing your faces at least. I'm originally from New Orleans. Grew up with art in the house and on the walls, and New Orleans is such a beautifully culturally rich city. I feel fortunate in that regard all the time. And just fell in love with artists. I don't know of another way of saying it, and just following their journey and being part of their story. So if it were as simple as being another, doorway for them to use to get to some other place by me supporting their practice and buying art, that's something that definitely took place. I will say with great shame, it has moved to a place where I'm not even sure where all the works are at this stage. Just because there's so many people that I've been on this journey with and watching, and it's rather extraordinary to see so many careers flourish. So I got started like most collectors do. Just went to a show, had someone take me under their wing, Dr. Joy Simmons, and say, young man, you're doing this the wrong way. Let me introduce you to some people. I met one or two artists, and then the next thing I knew, I was in really deep. So, buying and supporting artists from museum shows, buying from them directly. And it started with a really simple philosophy. It was an idea of just having everything in 3. It's such a beautiful divine number that the goal was just to have 3 works from every artist that we'd ever collected. And it started to generate something that was really rather significant that I'm rather proud of. And it's that so many of these artists' careers have now just turned into megastars. And that's not anything that I ever signed up for. And that's certainly not why I started supporting the artists. So, the fact that, Amy Sherald, who painted Michelle Obama's portrait, and I'm sitting there watching her present this painting, and 2 short years before, she was just finishing a waitressing job in Baltimore, Maryland, and I was buying her work from this gallery in Baltimore. So there's so many stories like that. But the thing I'm most proud of, and Troy, I thank you so much for your compliment, is that my collection is unapologetically Black. And it is something I am incredibly proud of, that all of these voices have found a platform to express themselves, from abstract art to columns from Lauren Halsey, to beautiful Black rainbows from Von Span, and having a number of those people now turn into art world superstars is something that is a pleasure. So I basically got the job at UTA because the CEO heard of me. I didn't even know that was a thing, that you could hear of someone who wasn't in that field. It's not anything I did professionally. And he's like, I have this art program. Would you be interested in doing it? And I said, yeah, let's talk. And we talked, and I fell in love with Jeremy Zimmer. And I've been there now 1.5 years, and it's the best job I've ever had before, because I get to spend my days talking about art and artists, and helping to nourish and make introductions and introduce them to new collectors, and basically really make sure that we do things right. I mean, the very first show that we put under when I joined was with Marianne Ibrahim. And we wanted it to be a show with lots of young voices who were just getting their foot in the door, and just starting to build a great career. So now I laugh that it was Von Span and Marcus Jamal and Terrell Gibbs, and Jarvis Boylan, like, and Jonathan Lyndon Chase. Like, are you kidding me? These guys are all mega stars. So it's been quite a journey. I'm really excited about my time and tenure at UTA, and there's lots of cool stuff that we've got coming in the pike. But the thing I like more than anything else is being connected to artists and being connected to this community.
Hey Arthur, I can ask you one question. This Meek. I wanted to ask, what actually, like, you know, me for myself, I love art. I used to draw as a kid, and I always liked art coming up, but I never understood, like, if I can ask at a preschool level, what makes art valuable? Like, what makes an art collection valuable? Like, say if I seen an artist, I met an artist that I really liked, that I really thought was good. What should I do if I had money to spend? If I had 25,000 to spend or 10,000 to spend, how does it work? And what makes a artist valuable and credible? Like, kind of like at a lower level, because we know, like, when we throw these rooms, we have people listening that never joined the art world or never got a chance to get educated on the art world. Like me, myself, I don't know too much about it. And sometimes my friends, they try to get me to buy and invest money into art. But the only thing that scares me is that I'm not educated about it.
Oh, Meek, that's such a great question, man. What I would tell you is start where it feels natural. And what I mean by that is I didn't really start doing this as an investment strategy. Yet I will tell you, and I'm sure Troy can back me up, it is literally the smartest investment I've ever made in my entire life. And more than anything else, I was really able to place not a bet, but it was almost a guarantee on our community. One of the things that frustrates me more than anything else in art conversations around the world for a while were that these were trends. Like, Black art was a trend. I'm like, when did Black people become a trend? Like, what the hell does that even mean? And now I'm seeing all of these published reports from these auction houses that the momentum that has started in this vein is now just exploding and is just getting started. So I also now know, Meek, this is a business and it's an enterprise. So you have the power to help create stars. One of the things I love about Larry so much and his engagement is that, he will introduce an artist and say, hey, have you seen this? And by, 5 people later, 7 collectors have now purchased this artist's work. A gallery hears about, hey, so-and-so bought this, so-and-so bought this, so-and-so bought this. And now I actually love that people sort of use me to make stars of Black artists. Like, bring it on. I feel like if anyone in our community wins, we all win. And it's an extraordinary thing. So you don't have to spend a lot of money. The first pieces I purchased were hundreds of dollars, and I can tell you that they're worth so much more than that. But there is a great personal pride in supporting in your community and really championing these young artists. And it's a really simple philosophy: buy what you love. Buy what you love, and I would say buy a little deep and make sure you're supporting that artist through the journey.
So I have a question for the stage.
Wait,
I got a
that too.
question too.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
Well, I'm an artist, and I've been doing these paintings for, I would say, like 7 years now. I've been painting, and I was in complete shock when I had put one of my paintings up in the auction, and somebody paid $16,000 for one of my paintings that cost me $25 to make. And so I just want to know if anybody want to buy one of my paintings.
That's amazing.
Oh,
You the shit, Tiffany. The people gonna pay for your art.
send us a PDF.
Put it on the gram, Tiff.
PTR in a minute. Hold up. I'm about to PTR.
PTR your painting too.
Yeah.
While she posts that up, I have a question for the stage.
Hey, I just got a text message of someone saying they'll buy your painting, Tiffany.
Bet. Auction starts at $10,000. $10,000.
Tiffany, now we got to get you some representation. If you sold at 16, you got to sell higher. So we got to talk.
Okay.
You got to sell higher.
I'm represented at UTA, so come on, brother, get it together.
You live around the corner from me, so I know where you are.
Okay, well, come on through. Come look at what I did.
And if Arthur buys one, then they already went up to 50. So Arthur, one thing to
That's one step
elaborate
closer
on
to
now.
me opening up this grocery store. Come on through, Arthur. I need to open up this grocery store at the Crenshaw Mall. I'm trying to open up a grocery store. Malton Square, Diaspora Groceries. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
So Arthur, one of the things like that you just touched on from Meek's question is because I get asked this a lot, and actually, literally today, I was on text with a friend of mine who was looking to buy a piece from an artist, and I was asking him the price range he was looking at, and I said, you know what, it sounds pretty expensive for that particular artist. Here's a few other artists within that price range where that are probably gonna be superstars. And so like when I know it's definitely buy what you like, but what I find a lot of times is that people will buy like randomly as well without doing like homework on an artist. How do you sort of pick like who? Like is there circles that you go in? Are there certain galleries that you go to, other collectors? Can you elaborate a little bit more on it?
And then
Sure.
real quick, Troy. I also want to while just in terms of the curation, I also want to include Sunny into the conversation as well, because we have two curators in the room, Arthur and Sunny. So Sunny, you just want to introduce yourself really quickly, and then let's both tackle the question.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I'm so happy to see Larry in here because, like Chris mentioned, I am a specialist. So I buy and sell art and all things design, so architecture. But I'm born and raised in San Francisco and go back and forth between San Francisco and New York. And I represent various Black collectors, and I work for ultra high net worth and high net worth families. So I've been really seeing the trends from the inside, like what families purchase, and I manage their collections. But I depend, right? Like I'm on the ground at the galleries, so I go in and out, but I depend on work that Larry does, right? So Larry helps influence where I'm looking. I'm doing my work too, but there are so many artists out there that it's just so hard to stay on top of everything, on top of me managing the families that I work for. And they're actually all not families. I work with a lot of bachelorettes and bachelors. But so how we identify the art is, we're in and out of all the art shows, all the galleries, and also doing studio visits. So I know like Larry covers studio visits. I mean, he covers everything across the world. So it's, we really divide and conquer, but we really need the curation at these galleries and in these cities across the world. So I kind of have my go-to people that I look at, in addition to following all the trends, reading, going to the MFA studios, looking at the grad students, but also there's artists that are not trained. And so finding them is just as fun as finding a trained artist.
PTR,
I have a
PTR.
question. So I have two questions. One question is, it kind of piggybacks off of Troy's question. When you're talking about like the appraisal process, and just for everybody in the audience, appraisal is basically what is the value, what is the market value for the art. So like even how Troy was saying, I don't think you should spend this much on that particular artist. How does appraisals and valuations work within the art world? Like how do you determine how much someone costs?
Like this painting that I just posted right now, that's something that I did on my first day with Common. So that's $25,000.
Tiffany, that's better. That's better.
Oh, that's what's up. And that's
You need to
fire
come with a
too,
story.
Tiff.
Say what?
Well, I think I can partially answer the question. I think a lot of
Thanks, Larry.
times, well, I'll answer your question, but then I wanted to piggyback Meek's question. So I think in terms of like determining what to buy, for me, as someone who didn't go to school for art, I think the best thing you can do is train your eye. So look at a lot of art. And as Arthur said, go where it feels natural and train your eye in terms of like determining what you like, what you don't like. And then, talking to your friends who do collect or who are in the space and really kind of, beginning to build a thesis or a philosophy as to like, if you like Hebrew Brantley. Why do you like Hebrew Brantley versus liking a Lauren Halsey? And then the more you train your eye, then it's just like you can identify what you really want. And then, through doing research, then begin to kind of find artworks that work for you, work for your budget, and things that you really want to support. The other thing that you can do, and I didn't even think about this, but Charles Moore wrote a book on collecting and getting art books, collecting
What's that
books.
book called? What's that book called?
Yeah, what's the name?
I got to look it up. Give me a
Okay,
second. I'll
it's
look it
called
up.
The Art Market.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on.
No, The Black Market. Sorry.
I
The
think it's called The
Black
Black Market. Yeah. So Charles Moore published this book, self-published. The Black Market, A Guide to Art Collecting. He's a brother, self-published the book himself. And like one of his first tips, which like I was kind of doing and didn't even realize, was just collecting art books. Because like if you get a book on a Kehinde Wiley or a Von Span, there's usually an essay that kind of goes in depth into what the work is about. They'll have images about the work. And that's for anybody, for any budget. You can get an art book for $20, $30, $40, and kind of start there. I think the mistake that people do is they try to jump in quick, because like particularly if we're looking at this particular moment, there's so much energy and attention around Black artists, Black figuration, and whether you're buying for investment or buying for love, people just want to be part of the ecosystem. And I think the mistake that you make is that you'll have someone like Troy and I were talking about an artist, and I think that artist is overpriced, because when you begin to do the research, I'm looking at, okay, what exhibitions did they do, what key collections are they in, because sometimes people will throw these arbitrary numbers out there, and they might have buzz in the street, but what have they tangibly done, and so I think doing your due
PTR,
diligence.
So
PTR.
So doing your due diligence, I think, is super important. And then I think going back to the valuation thing, it's good to have an appraiser who can help you figure that out. But I mean, you could also just kind of do your own research and look at comps. So like, if the artist is sold at auction, those auction records are probably they're normally public. If an
RC got them
artist,
for free.
excuse me,
I said RC has them for free.
yeah,
Go
plug,
check them
plug,
out.
plug, Everett. I mean, Artsy is a great tool. I mean, there's artists like I remember 2 years ago, just kind of just searching on Artsy, and there was a Sam Gilliam piece for like $4,000, which like if anybody who knows Sam Gilliam, that's just like that just doesn't happen. It's like because his work is going for six figures, so anytime you can find a jewel like that, you scoop it up.
I brought
I,
some great pieces from Artsy, like
Yeah,
really great pieces from Artsy.
yeah.
I,
But
I
at
have a,
the last point, at the end of the day, it's economics, right? So it's what the market can bear, right? So if the market can bear 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, that's usually gonna give you an idea or ballpark of a potential valuation. And anybody who's in business, you'll know sometimes those valuations are inflated, and so you got to determine, do you agree with what the market is saying?
So I have a follow-up question to that. So when you say like comps in art, right?
Yeah.
So like for instance, if we're talking about music, we could look at hip hop artists and be like, okay, Meek and Savage are comparable to each other because of the type of music that they make. So in art, how do we do that?
I mean, it's pretty much a similar exercise, right? So you look at, okay, these two artists are figurative artists, looking at age, did one of them go to school, both of them go to school, how many exhibitions have they done, what gallery do they show with, so it's just kind of doing your due diligence and just kind of doing an A/B test. But it also comes down to what your philosophy is, because some collectors, having an MFA is important. For me, that's not necessarily the case, because I know a lot of people who have MFAs and they're on the side of a milk carton. MFA doesn't guarantee that you're going to be a good artist. I mean,
What if you was in the Los Angeles Children's Museum?
That counts.
Okay, good, good. Because I've been an artist since I was 7. Now. Let's go.
Oh my God.
Me too, Tiffany. I'm an artist too. I used to draw too myself. My shit
Man,
worth
I
something
still
too.
draw. I still draw.
Here's another
So
thing to
Desiree,
consider.
both of you guys. Oh, go ahead,
Oh,
Arthur.
sorry. No, I was saying here's another thing to consider. I would make sure that if you're just getting into this, buy from an artist, buy from someone that this is their dedicated practice, that this is the thing that they do. Because what you want to be able to do is look out the long term with them and make sure for them and for you that you got started from a really great place. So, Tiffany, I'm going to come around the corner. I'm going to buy your painting. I'm going to make sure I support you. I'm going to introduce you to my friends. Troy's going to buy one. Katira's going to buy one. We sit on museum boards. We introduce you to the museum board. The next thing you know, you're 100 grand. So it's really that continuation of supporting from the very beginning and making sure that that person's craft is just that. Because if you're buying from someone who's potentially, this is maybe a hobby and not an artist since age 7, as Tiffany just told us she was, it creates a little bit more risk. It doesn't mean that they're less talented. It doesn't mean that they are not, the investment in their work is going to, not go up. It just means that you have a very focused philosophy in looking at it. A master of fine arts is something that is rather extraordinary. But as Larry said, there are many artists who are out there who are incredible, who can just, with relationships, turn into superstars. So I would make sure that you do your homework. Everett, I mean, man, this has got to be so good for you. But Artsy is literally one of the best platforms in order to do this, because you can just do lots of researching, type in different things to see different types of art. And believe it or not, I have artists who hit me up on Twitter, and because I'm terrified of Instagram, and reach out to me. And I'm actually giving one of these artists a show at UTA. So you never know where great work's going to come from. So
Arthur,
just
do
keep
you
your eyes
think you
open
can
everywhere.
help me
Thanks,
get one of
Arthur.
Phyllis Diller's paintings? I'm trying to get a hold of Phyllis Diller's paintings.
Hey, I just have a quick question for the room, real quick, before we jump into that. Basically, this PJ Kev actually talking. So basically, I just wanted to know, how about if you actually have the money to buy an art, to buy a piece, but basically it's not available because someone either like share a story, Arthur, Larry, anyone that wants to share a story that you basically had the money to buy a piece, but it wasn't available anymore. How do you actually like find that art piece?
This is when you use the phone a friend card. It's probably one of the most common things that takes place, in that people see an artist that becomes hot, and the next thing you can't get it. The joy of having a network of art collecting friends is that someone is usually connected to that artist. Larry's always one of the first people I call. Like, Larry, do you know X? Or I will send him a screenshot of something. And then there are times where, I'll bounce things off Katira. What I love about her is she will like say, hey, have you seen this? And the next thing you know, we're all in sort of cahoots together buying things. So creating that art network, I think, is something that's really vital and helpful in that regard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
but
one.
But
Hold
can
on.
anyone help me get a Phyllis Diller painting? Because she used to paint all the time, and she's one of my comedy favorites.
So I have a question for the room.
we'll track
In,
it
in,
down.
in terms of
Yeah,
backings, right? When it comes to certain galleries, what makes one gallery more credible than another gallery? And positioning an artist to become in that gallery, how do you decide where you want to put your art in that particular?
That's a great question, but also honestly, I really want to answer PJ Cav's question really quick because, bro, I had to get it out the mud. I feel like, having like art industry connects, that's a place of privilege. Most of us don't have that. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even meet someone like Arthur Lewis and Larry until I was kind of in the game already and already fucked up and made a lot of mistakes. And so when you're talking about getting access, at the end of the day, I hustle, man. I didn't even know how all of that worked. I remember seeing this artist, Lena Iris Victor, on Instagram, and then I hit her up and she was like, I don't have work. She's gonna have to hit up my gallery. And I couldn't even understand, like, why can't you sell me work? I got money, you can't sell me work. And so I had to learn the entire process of how all this stuff happened. And it's crazy because I actually ended up looking her up and I found her gallery on Artsy, and her gallery happened to be Marianne Ibrahim Gallery, which is a Black owned gallery. And I connected with Marianne Ibrahim and she started showing me the ropes. But before that, man, like,
I was really just seeing artists on Instagram or places that I went, and if it was artists, I just did whatever I had to kind of get that connection. But then you hit this ceiling and this wall where I don't care how much money you have, whatever. Like if the works aren't available, they're not available. And someone asked earlier, what makes art valuable? And it's really simple supply and demand. And when you see these crazy auction prices, there's nothing like rich people that can't have what the fuck they want. Like that drives them crazy. When you see auction prices, it's because there's literally an artist makes X amount of works and there's thousands of people that want those works. You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, it's really all simple supply and demand for, what these works are, how much these works are valuable. But to get back to your question, Kev, like, for me, it's like Arthur said, it's like reaching out to people and just learning. You're gonna make a lot of mistakes. I see a lot of people buying works where you could spend 10,000 on something that's not ever going to be worth something, or an artist that's not really committed to actually continuing their career, and you could put 10,000 into a Mwako Bofo 2 years ago, and now he's auctioning for $1 million plus. So you just got to really be careful in that sense. But the advice that I would give to anybody in this game that is genuinely wants to get to artists that they don't have access to is really building relationships, asking questions, learning, man, because it's a very frustrating situation. And I remember walking into galleries and I had the money at the time and people wouldn't give me any play. So Kev, I got you. Reach out to people here. Like it's really like important to lean on people. And to Carver's question about the galleries.
Really quick, Everett.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Before you do Carver's question for the gallery, you said something that I would think that the audience would probably want to know. What is a gallery to an artist? So like how you said you went to the artist and the artist can't sell you because they're like, you got to go to my gallery. What is a gallery's role to an artist?
Yeah, so a gallery is really the business side to an artist, where the gallery allows an artist to focus on what they're good at, which is art. I'm sure like a lot of creatives or people that have dealt with like some artists, sometimes artists, they don't know what to do or how to get their work out there or how to price their work and do a lot of these things, and galleries become that business support system for artists to sell their work. They're that liaison on the business side to sell their work. And with that being said, it's like usually not for all artist gallery relationships, but it's usually a 50-50
So
split.
would you?
So if you buy, go ahead, Krista.
Sorry, just for clarification, would you say that a gallery is like a label to an artist, like a record label to an artist?
That's a good question. I mean, it's very similar, but less shitty deals, honestly.
Yeah. Well, we got.
I think the deals are more shitty for fine artists
Oh, you think so?
than music artists. They take 50%.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we got
So that's a good pivot. So how do galleries make money off of the artists that they show inside their gallery?
I'm a gallerist, so I'd be I'd be happy to answer that question. Hey guys, thanks for having me. My name's Todd. I have a gallery here in New York City and Chelsea. Larry, what's up? Everett, what's up? Kev, hey guys, thanks for having me. Anyway, so like the way the relationship works from like between the gallery and the artist, it's very interesting, right? So both people have their jobs. Obviously, the artist's job is to create the work. The gallery's job, though, is to really promote the work in a positive manner and place the work. And the term place means sell the work, which can then go into Kev's question, to the right people. And what does that mean? That means if I represent you, my objective is to get you in the MoMA, to get you in the Whitney Museum, to help build your prices organically, to kind of prevent you from going down the wrong path of having the wrong collectors collect you. That is like kind of like the initial model that's built. The gallery obviously pays for the space. The artist provides the work. It's an interesting dynamic that it's a 50-50 split, though.
And how does the curator's dynamic play into that?
So the curator generally has relationships with the gallerist. So like, for example, I have a show up right now, an artist named Raven Half Moon. We've had 4 curators come through the gallery to look at her work, possibly thinking about putting it in like a show in their museum.
Yo, Todd, real quick, I want to ask you, what is the wrong collector?
Well,
What does that mean?
Kendall, can you
Oh,
introduce yourself as well
I'm
too?
Really
sorry.
good,
Because you were
really good
My
question.
bad.
you were a heavy hitter on the stage, and people need to know who you were.
My bad, y'all. My name is Kendall. I work with an artist named Hebrew Brantley. Um, so I kind of work with him closely, but that's my deal. But I heard Todd, and I wanted to ask specifically about when he said the wrong collector, because I think that's what is intimidating for a lot of people to get started. So I just wanted to know what that meant.
Yeah, thanks for letting me clarify that. So the wrong collector would be Everett kind of mentioned sometimes that auction prices can go crazy for an artist, right? Because certain people want to own the work and there's a finite supply. So what happens is, let's just say an artist sells its work and the primary price of the work is 25,000 or 50,000. But at auction, the same painting is selling for $500,000. That incentivizes, when I say like wrong, people who are coming in specifically just to like flip, like in any other market, they're called flippers. So to gain access to buy the work so they can put it at auction and walk away with the profit. Whereas someone like Arthur may really want to have the work for his collection, or someone like Everett may really want to have the work for his collection. He could be competing against some bullshit artist who's only in the game just to profit.
Copy. So
Appreciate that.
what would make an artist put it in a gallery versus doing their own exhibition?
Unfortunately, at the moment in the world that we live right now, I actually believe that the art world is changing and artists are gaining more agency where they're starting to gain independence and having much more power, which is nice to see. I think that galleries validate artists. I will say, like Kendall, you've done a fantastic job because Hebrew Brantley kind of bootstrapped and grassrooted his way to being really like a top artist. So like, hats off to you.
Word. Thanks a
I
lot,
have
bro.
a I have
Hold,
a
Could we
hold
like
question.
flip?
1 second. We have also Katira in the room. She's a collector. Her and her husband in LA. I just wanted her to just introduce herself real quick before we go into any other questions.
Thank you, Larry. I'm still kind of blown away that you have me in this room because it doesn't feel like I deserve to be in this room, given that Arthur Lewis is here alone and
Oh,
Troy Carter.
please. Come on, Katira.
Please. But I'll start. I started collecting I was 18 years old, and what I could afford was $50 prints. And art was therapy for me. It was very therapeutic because I didn't speak the language because I came here from another country. So it was a form of being able to express myself without actually using words. So that was how I initially fell into art. But of course, I was in the food industry and, that doesn't pay you shit. So I can't afford any of these things. So I just started buying what I loved. And then around 25, I met my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. And I figured, oh shit, this dude has money. I could make him buy the art that I like. But I tried for 2 years and he was just not in it. There was something about the art world that's so risky, especially for somebody who is an artist himself and he's in the film industry. So for him, he was like, I don't know when my next paycheck is, and you want me to spend $15,000 on this? So he just kept saying no. I'm working at 11 Madison Park in New York at the time, making like $500 a week. We both walked into a gallery and he saw these 80s boombox prints. They were photography pieces, but there was a 12 set and it was $12,000. And he really took to it, but at the time he was like 12,000 is too much money. So when he went back to LA, I walked back into that gallery. I put that on my credit card, which had a max of 14,000, maxed out my credit card, bought him the gift for his 40th birthday, and that slowly got him to open up to art, but very slowly. So in the process of him saying no to everything, what I did was every time I fell in love with somebody that I couldn't personally buy, I called an Arthur Lewis, or I called another friend, or I called another friend. And eventually, if I came across Jordan Castile and her pieces were $5,000 at the time, but we couldn't buy it, I called a friend up. I was like, listen, I really think you should get this girl. She's young, and I think she has the potential of being really big. Because selfishly, I just wanted to be able to live with the art, even if it meant it was in somebody else's house. I just wanted to go visit it because that's how much I loved it. So after doing a Jordan Castile, and after calling another friend to be like, listen, there's this kid named Vaughn. He is doing these incredible rainbow pieces. I think you should get it. And then I called someone else up. I'm like, oh my God, there's this guy named Derek Forger. You have to buy him. Meanwhile, I don't have any works that are to that level. But those friends, because they were so grateful that I did that, they let me live with the work for like a year or two. And once those works came into my house, it did something emotionally to my husband, because now he's living with these pieces. He's looking at them every single day, and his mood changed. Then he started experiencing an emotional connection with them. And then our kids started seeing themselves up on our walls. So then he was ready, but he was ready only at that range of maybe below $5,000. So then I did what I do best, which is find people that are below $5,000. And if I found the Amawako 4 years ago that was selling pieces for $1,500, $2,000, I would buy a piece for myself. But because in nature, I'm somebody who wants to just yell on top of a mountain when I fall in love with something, I would host dinners because I'm a cook. That's my first love. And I would host these dinners at my home, and I would introduce Amawako to my circle of friends. And those circle of friends would get a chance to get to know him, and they would buy a piece. And I trust those friends. I know that now those friends are going to go tell so-and-so, oh my God, I met this guy named Amawako at Katir's house for dinner. I really like him. You should look into it. And next thing you know, that person's buying Amawako, and that person's buying Amawako. And now the piece I have holds more value because an Arthur Lewis has it, or because a Troy Carter has. I mean, not that I know Troy, but I'm just saying an example.
No, you're
So I
not being
start.
biased.
So I started hosting these dinners, and I hosted dinners like every 2 months. And they were all like, it was a single mother who was an art student. It was a guy from Nigeria. It was a, kid from Oakland, because I'm originally from the Bay. So I really focused on, what do I love? What do I want on my walls? Who do I want to support? And my circle, like everybody has been saying, John Gray, I don't know if he's up here, but he and I, when it comes to bouncing off ideas, he's my go-to person. Like Larry is to me, Arthur is, and I know Sherman's listening to this too, who's an incredible collector. But once you start hosting dinners, once you start going to shows, once you start collecting, your circle becomes bigger and bigger. And now you're in the room where things are happening, and you're not just like buying blindly. You're having like a conversation with people. And because I'm doing dinners, and because this artist who no one bought their pieces before, now because of this dinner, 10, 15 people have bought it, that artist has become family to me now. So now they're coming over to my house and playing with my kids. I'm flying to wherever they live just to go visit them. So now I can never flip that work. I mean, don't get me wrong. If shit hits the fan, I will flip the work 10 years later or 5 years later. But in the meantime, I'm not flipping because these artists have become family to me. So now you've built trust. I just think you need to, what everybody's been echoing in here, you need to get what you love, and you need to get what won't hurt your wallet. Because God forbid, if nothing happens to that artist 10 years from now, who gives a fuck? Because now you still love this piece. It still lives in your wall, and it doesn't matter how much it gained. But the bonus is, if God works its way for everybody, that artist does become somebody really big. And sadly, like Arthur said, the art space has changed a lot. So the way I used to collect, a lot of these artists that were young, they were so happy for me to buy a piece. But now, some other people have decided that there's value in this as well. And those people have a lot more money than I do. and a lot more generational wealth. So they are walking in and scooping them up. And it's not as easy as it used to be. And although I'm so happy in one form, I'm also a little terrified for how people are handling these young artists' careers.
Ooh, can we talk
That's
about that
such
a
a
little
beautiful.
bit more?
Well, before she deep dives in it, I really wanted to ask a question, just in terms of like when it comes to the backings of these people, right? Like, how important is it for them to be backed? Because I know you spoke a little bit about like the collectiveness of, in terms of like making sure the artist has the awareness and making sure they have the support. That cosign is super important. But how important is it for that artist to also have a backing?
Yeah.
And
And then
Carver, can
also,
I answer your question? Sorry, I just want to add to Carver's question really quickly because I think one of the things that I've heard several people say on the call tonight is if I had this person 2 years ago or this person 4 years ago or bought, this particular artist 3 years ago, it'd be nice to kind of flip the conversation even just for a couple of minutes to the artist side that's working from the ground up, from the bottom. What does that look like to be a person a few years off from being great? How do
well,
they get themselves seen and get that connection that we keep talking about with the curators and the collectors here?
we
I love
should
that question,
bring,
Megan.
I think we have probably one of the best artists of our generation right now with Nelson in the room, and my brother
Yes.
Tim, that was actually able to connect us a long time ago, just at a random barbecue. He's like, "Yo, meet my friend Nelson." And I didn't even know who he was. He was just a super good brother. And then come to find out, like has been through this entire journey of now becoming one of our generation's top up and coming artists. And so maybe Tim and Nelson, it'd be great just to, especially to get your perspective as an artist and also kind of, your journey into making it, as we would call it, into the big league, so to speak.
Nelson?
I'm not sure Nelson is there, but I'm gonna defer to the Troys and the Arthurs and Katiras because literally that's
He's
how
here. He just
I
hopped
get.
in. He's in.
Oh,
Tim,
there you go.
Tim,
Go ahead.
Tim, you've been
Okay.
building a collection, so don't get shy over there.
He's being humble over there.
He's
That's
No,
being
real.
no,
humble
no.
over there.
I'm definitely not being shy, but
You
Troy knows
guys
I've
too,
sat
like
down with
being
Troy.
humble is like the reverse thing in here. Like this like a motivated room. When we hear people doing well, we see it, we learn, and we earn from like you guys, what you guys do and what y'all bring to the table. So like if you did a lot, it'd be like more gratificating. Like, and you don't have to speak your personal business, but like you don't have to be humble in here. We love that. Like it motivates us to like the fullest extent when y'all speak on y'all
Absolutely.
accomplishments.
Before Nelson speaks real quick, but me to your point, not being humble, but the valuable thing I'm gonna say is what Katira and Arthur and them have said. Like I said, Troy will tell you, I've sat with Troy and we've discussed this, and Troy's put me on to stuff. And Arthur, who I met a couple months ago, and my wife and I, we fell in love with him, and he put me on. I've been to Katira's dinners, so I'm just echoing what they echoed. The value that I have, even though I have some pretty nice pieces, is listening to the people on stage. So, and I met Nelson in South Africa a couple years ago, but I'm sure he'll get into his story.
Appreciate that, Tim.
Hello everyone.
Nelson, what's up?
What's up,
That
brother?
was
What's
beautiful.
up, man? Appreciate you popping in, bro.
Welcome to Culture Currency.
Nelson. Thank you. I mean, it's as an artist, and I'm gonna actually speak from an artist perspective. I think one of the most interesting thing because I'm based in Africa, which is quite a very interesting continent because one of the most pleasant thing was that the country that I'm born in, it had actually quite an interesting and a strong economy in the arts, which that sort of give me quite a strong quite a strong foundation as an artist. But I think one of the most, especially as a self-taught artist, is that One of the most interesting things that you always find, and this is something that has made me not to really even want to associate myself with galleries, was that um, in most cases when you create art, you create art because of you get inspired by your surrounding, but then um, every industry has a culture, and then when you get in as an artist, one of the most interesting things that you find that are quite challenging is how your growth is actually evaluated by that industry with rules that sometimes they are not actually inspiring. It's like I mean, from most people that I had, when they mentioned in conversation, is that what define and make a great artist is that an artist has to be either associated with a certain gallery, or if that artist doesn't actually show with the museum, then that artist's work won't actually be valued or be recognized or be respected as well. So I'm one of the few artists that my journey was not defined by a gallerist or a museum. Is that um, my growth was mainly inspired by the people around me. Is that along my growth, one of the most important things that I found that has been inspiring for me as an artist was you find that people around you are growing you because they get to speak about your work from an honest perspective, without them actually being biased. Because I think in most cases, and that's one thing that I think over the years, and is how an artist will actually have a relationship with the people around them that connect with this work. Um, when the gallery that I wanted to work with didn't recognize my work, and I started challenging myself as an artist to say, how do I grow and groom myself to be an artist, and also to get to a position where I look at what I do and I call myself a professional artist. So I started doing residencies, and which residencies started opening up to me doing art first, and that was not the only thing. I think one of the most powerful things that I thought it was also revolutionary for me as an artist was having to have an Instagram account, which I think a lot of time, especially within the art world, they didn't really approve of it, because it was like almost an artist is actually overexposing themselves as well. And I think one of the most powerful thing I found about that was that when you start also sharing your work, you start allowing people to experience your work fairly, because not everyone has access to go to galleries. Not everyone has access to go to museums. And I think I found that one of the most powerful thing was to have a tool like Instagram to give anyone access to art. Because I think also another thing that we also, and especially this, I found it a lot in the art, is that it is also a snobbish way of not allowing people to fully enjoy art. The one thing that I always used to find was that often people will say, "Your people don't buy art," but what really inspire you to create work is your people. And I think also that for me as an artist, it was one of the things that I also had to ask myself, that um, if I'm really inspired by my surroundings and everything that I do is motivated by my surroundings, and how come if I'm speaking that language fluently, it doesn't really connect with my surroundings? And I think that I found that it was easy when you have something like Facebook, when you have something like Twitter, when you have something like Instagram, where you just sort of share work with wider audience, and there's no restriction, there's no, you can speak the language. And you find that that was one of the things that for me it has sort of allowed me to even see the power of how my work can actually reach out to people. And I think that was one of the things that has also made me and my work to actually get to places that I've never thought that my work was going to be able to reach as well. And I mean, just also to add on that, I mean, I met people like my brother Tim because of my work and because of the revolution of actually internet as well. So do I, as an artist, look at my success would be because my work will be within a certain collection? What would actually be something that would make me as an artist to feel that I've grown into what I'm doing? I think I've truly appreciated the fact that I've learned that work of art, more than anything else, it's also a tool that can also help us appreciate other cultures as well. And what has always been, I think, and the drive for me is the fact that my work has introduced me to many different people. My work has taught me to look at racism differently, because it's not only one race that appreciate my work, but multiple nations that actually appreciate. My work has taught me the power that art is an honest politic that can help us look at things differently. But I think far more beyond everything is I've learned that as an artist, that the success is when you are able to create work that can reach and educate other people without them having to have or learn or know the language of art. So I've been an artist my whole entire life. Has my journey been different from others? It has been blessing that people were able to inspire me to work more and to improve without really having to measure myself or having to say that I want to be in this museum to consider myself as a better artist. So it has made me look at the artwork completely differently, and I think it's actually one of the things that till this day, when I look back, I mean, about 2 years ago or about a year ago, my work was on the time. To wake up and to find that without having to be represented by either a major gallerist, but by being independently artist, that my journey was not defined by anything but by the love that people have actually followed me as well. That today I don't actually see anything, but I feel that honestly, it's truly a blessing to be an artist of color today, because my journey was not defined by anything else, but was defined by a generation of people of more or less the same age as me, who truly look at what I did and they believe that I contributed a different voice. So I think it's in a simple term, I always say that it's the love, I think, of culture, of the things that we do around us, that
Yep.
more
No,
than
I love
anything else,
that.
that inspire a lot of artists to do what they do.